Welcome back to Let the Chips Fly podcast. And in this episode, we talk about the 2026 June newsletter called Chips from the Charlotte Woodcarvers.
Thanks for having me back. It's quite a document to go through.
It really is. I mean, when you think about it, what does an ancient tactile craft like whittling have in common with, corporate logistics or even artificial intelligence algorithms?
Right. On the surface, absolutely nothing.
Exactly. But today, we're looking at this local club newsletter that, honestly, it accidentally wrote a masterclass in community building, artistic discipline, and knowledge sharing.
It really did.
And whether you're a seasoned woodworker with a garage full of gouges, or you're someone who has literally never held a carving knife in your life, this is just a fascinating window into a highly organized subculture.
Oh, absolutely. It perfectly balances that solitary craftsmanship with this surprisingly modern approach to community.
Yeah. You crack open the June 2026 edition, and right out of the gate, you're hit with this macro-level view of a highly functioning society.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't read like some casual neighborhood get-together,
Not at all.
It reads like a thriving institution that has spent decades just refining its internal operations.
The opening address from their president, Steve Stellatano, who, by the way, is stepping into his second term, it really sets that tone.
Oh, for sure. He gives this exhaustive fiscal year recap.
And it hit me. I was reading it, and I thought, this reads exactly like a Fortune 500 company's annual shareholder report.
Right. But instead of talking about quarterly profit margins or dividends.
Currency is community engagement.
Exactly. They operate on a strict fiscal year from June 1st to May 31st, and that just frames this sprawling slate of activities.
It's massive. That rigid fiscal structure seems to be the engine driving all their outreach.
It is. If you look at their 25-26 season highlights, the footprint is genuinely staggering.
It really is.
Because, the stereotype of a woodcarver is often someone isolated, right? Just quietly whittling away on a back porch.
Yeah, exactly. The lone artisan.
Right. But this newsletter reveals a profoundly extroverted society.
Yeah. They were everywhere. They were at multiple Matthews Farmers Markets, the Matthews Alive Festival, Waxhaw Autumn Treasures.
And they sent representatives to carving shows stretching from the Smoky Mountains all the way to Hickory and the Piedmont Show.
Plus, they had a full suite of teachers at what they call the barn.
Oh, yeah, running Saturday classes on everything from painting to carving a Santa rolling pin.
They even had Paul Desrosier doing a chip carving demo at Woodcraft and Dick Card teaching relief carving.
Which is a great lineup.
It is, but it actually made me realize something. I hear these terms thrown around a lot, but what exactly separates a chip carving demo from what Dick Card is doing with relief carving?
Well, it really comes down to how you're manipulating the surface of a wood.
Okay.
So chip carving is this highly decorative technique. You use a very specific short-bladed knife to remove small, precise triangles of wood from a single flat surface.
So you are making like a 3D object.
No, not really. You're creating intricate geometric patterns into the surface. It's almost like carving a kaleidoscope into the wood.
Oh, wow. That sounds incredibly tedious.
It requires a lot of precision.
Yeah.
Relief carving, on the other hand, is carving figures or scenes into a flat panel of wood so they project outward.
Like the artwork on a heavy antique door.
Exactly. Or the design on a coin. It creates the illusion of 3D depth, but it's still attached to that flat background.
Got it. So they're actively getting out in front of crowds, doing live demonstrations of these highly specific techniques.
Yeah, it's a deliberate, organized effort to, proselytize the craft to the public.
They want to show people the magic of taking raw material and finding the art inside it.
And that transition from public outreach to actual technique is handled brilliantly in the newsletter.
Because once you get people interested, you have to actually teach them the foundational rules.
Exactly. Which brings us to a section that I found surprisingly bittersweet.
Yeah, the column called Wood Chip Chatter.
Right. It's written by a member known as Carver Bob K, and he's retiring his column after 6 years due to health and other reasons.
But man, for his final lesson, he leaves the club with an absolute masterclass on the architecture of the human form.
It is a beautiful parting gift, honestly. He breaks down the geometric scaffolding of human proportions.
And why is that so critical for beginners?
Because whether you're carving a hyper-realistic bust or a goofy, exaggerated caricature, you cannot successfully break the rules of human anatomy until you've mastered them.
Let's look at the rule of 3 he outlines. It's fascinating. For the body, he states, the standard human form is exactly 7.5 heads tall.
Yep, divided into thirds. Shoulders to waist, waist to knees, knees to feet.
And the face has these incredibly specific dimensions, too. Like, a properly proportioned head is exactly 5 eyes wide.
Yes, and that specific detail, 5 eyes wide, is where so many novice artists stumble.
Really? Why is that?
Well, when we look at a face, we naturally focus on the features themselves, right? The eyes, the nose, the mouth. We don't focus on the negative space. So beginners almost always make the eyes too big or too close together.
Oh, interesting.
But if you measure it out, the distance between your two eyes is exactly the width of a single eye.
And there's another full eye width from the outer corner of each eye to the side of the head.
Exactly. He also mentions that if you drop a horizontal center line from the very top of the head to the bottom of the chin, your eyes sit right on that line.
Okay, but I have to push back on this rigid approach for a second.
Go for it.
When you read those measurements, it feels so counterintuitive to how we actually look at people in daily life.
I mean, sure.
Like when I look at someone, I don't see geometric grid lines.
Mm.
Why do artists rely on such an almost robotic way of viewing the human body?
Well, that is the ultimate challenge of visual art. Cognitive science tells us our brains are wired to recognize faces based on holistic patterns and emotional expressions.
Right, I look at a friend and immediately perceive their mood.
Exactly. But an artist can't sculpt a mood directly into a block of basswood. They have to sculpt the underlying geometry that creates the physical cues we interpret as a mood. If the geometry is off, the brain instantly flags the face as unnatural.
Oh, I see. It's like learning musical scales.
That's a great comparison.
You have to internalize the rigid, unglamorous structure of a scale before you can improvise a jazz solo.
Right. You have to know exactly where the geometric boundaries of a face are so you can selectively stretch them when carving a caricature.
Without losing the humanity of the piece.
That is a perfect way to look at it. If you don't know that the face is divided into specific thirds, your carving will always look slightly wrong to the human eye.
Even if the viewer can't articulate why.
Exactly. And Carver Bob K also leaves them with one easily forgotten detail about the profile. The ears sit just behind the vertical center line of the head from a side view.
Yeah, he specifically says don't shortchange the back of the skull.
Which is such great advice.
It's such a practical warning that clearly comes from years of watching beginners carve flat-backed heads because they focused entirely on the face.
Oh, I'm sure he's seen hundreds of those.
But all of that mathematical precision, that deep understanding of anatomy, it requires a medium that won't crack or splinter under the pressure of the knife.
Absolutely. If you carve a perfectly proportioned face on a piece of wood that splits unpredictably, the math doesn't matter.
Which logically leads us to the club's greatest hidden asset,
The woodlocker.
maintained by a member named Joe Davis. I read this section, and I pictured a highly specialized supply chain manager.
Oh, totally. These members are going to Joe looking for the perfect grain density and moisture content.
President Stellatano highlights the sheer variety of inventory they keep stocked, and it's wild.
They aren't just hoarding a few scraps of pine in a closet.
No, they have 12-inch sticks in dimensions from 1 by 1 up to 3 by 3 inches. They have what are called roughouts.
And a roughout, for those unfamiliar, is essentially a block of wood that has been run through a bandsaw to remove the bulk waste.
So it gives the carver the basic, blocky silhouette of a bear or a face.
Right, so they can skip the exhausting physical labor of removing large chunks of wood and get straight to the nuanced carving.
It must save an enormous amount of time and physical strain.
Oh, definitely. But beyond the roughouts, the newsletter mentions some truly exotic materials in the woodlocker.
Yeah, they have cottonwood bark, cypress knees, and live edge boards.
I mean, those names sound incredible.
They really do. But what makes cottonwood bark or a cypress knees so desirable for a carver?
Well, cottonwood trees produce an incredibly thick, soft bark when they die.
Okay.
And it's highly prized because you can carve deep, rich, three-dimensional faces, often called wood spirits, directly into the thick bark without ever hitting the dense, hard inner wood of the tree.
Oh, that's awesome. And what about the cypress knees?
Cypress knees are those cone-shaped, knobby roots that grow upward out of swamp water around cypress trees.
Right, I've seen those.
Because of their natural tapering shape, carvers love to turn them into Santa Claus figures or gnomes. The shape of the root practically dictates the shape of the carving.
The newsletter also mentions they keep project cutouts stocked, including blanks for something called comfort birds.
Yes. Comfort birds are smooth, teardrop-shaped wooden birds designed to fit perfectly in the palm of your hand.
People rub them almost like a worry stone to relieve anxiety, right?
Exactly. It's a beautiful concept.
But looking at this from an operational standpoint, There is a serious economic strategy happening here with this woodlocker.
There really is. If we look at the economics of any specialized hobby, the barrier to entry is usually financial.
High-quality carving wood, especially specialty items like cottonwood bark, can be incredibly expensive for an individual to source and ship.
By leveraging the collective buying power of the Charlotte Woodcarvers, the club buys in bulk.
So they absorb that logistical friction.
Right, and they keep the prices low for their members.
It totally democratizes the art form. If you're a new member and you want to try carving a face into cottonwood bark, you don't have to risk $50 ordering a piece online.
Right, a piece that might arrive with a hidden, uncarvable knot in the middle.
Exactly. You just go to Joe Davis at the woodlocker.
It removes the excuses. You have the teachers, you have the mathematical blueprints from Carver Bob K, and thanks to Joe, you have the raw materials at a discount.
So we've discussed the anatomical rules, and we've explored the raw materials, but I really want to look at the emotional application of this craft.
Yeah, what are they actually creating with these materials?
The newsletter highlights two specific stories that I think capture the entire spectrum of this community's impact.
The first one looks to the next generation.
Yeah. The club participated in a youth day for the Piedmont Animal Welfare Society, or PAWS, down in Gaston County.
Right, and the PAWS mission focuses on getting youth involved in conservation and the outdoors, offering a free event for kids up to 16 years old.
The Woodcarvers, led by Richard DeFranco, set up a station to teach animal carving. But there's a very deliberate choice regarding the medium they used for the kids.
Yeah, that stood out to me too.
Wait, they had kids carving soap instead of wood. Is that purely a liability and safety measure, or is there an actual technique reason for that?
Well, it's both, but pedagogically, soap is the perfect gateway material.
How so?
If you hand a 10-year-old a sharp knife and a block of hardwood, you're introducing significant physical resistance.
Sure, wood has grain.
Exactly. It can split unpredictably along that grain, and it requires hand strength. That leads to frustration and occasionally accidents.
And soap is different.
Soap, on the other hand, is completely homogeneous.
Yeah.
It has no grain direction to fight against. It cuts smoothly no matter which way you slice it.
So it essentially removes the physical friction so the kids can focus entirely on the mental friction of 3D design.
Right. They are learning how to remove negative space to reveal an animal without fighting the material itself.
It teaches spatial awareness in a completely forgiving medium.
Exactly. They're planting the seeds of the craft.
But then the newsletter pivots to the other end of the generational spectrum, honoring the past.
This was a deeply touching story.
It really was. It's about a club member named Keith Jones, who hand-carved a cane and presented it to his neighbor, Colonel Don Monday.
The newsletter details Colonel Monday's incredible 25-year military career, and, it is extensive.
It's wild. He enlisted right after college as a Vietnamese interpreter.
Then he went to infantry officer candidate school at Fort Benning.
He was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Signal Corps.
He spent 3 years with the 5th Special Forces Group, the Green Berets.
He commanded 2 signal companies in Korea.
And his last duty assignment was spending 3 years in the Pentagon, serving in the Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations Office, finally retiring in 1992 as a lieutenant colonel.
When you understand the breadth of that history, the gift of a hand-carved cane takes on so much weight.
It really does, because a cane is literally an object designed to offer physical support.
Right.
So, for Keith Jones to spend hours of his life applying the rules of his craft, carefully shaping the wood, sanding it, finishing it, he is building support directly into the timber for a man who spent 25 years supporting his country.
Oh, that's incredibly well said. It changes the object entirely.
It's no longer just a piece of wood. It's a physical manifestation of gratitude.
The hours spent shaping it reflect a deep respect for the years of service.
Yeah.
And this creates such an interesting tension as we move into the final section of the newsletter.
Oh, this was a surprise.
Because we're talking about the permanence of a hardwood cane, a tactile object meant to outlast us. But right there in the middle of the newsletter, there is a section of poetry generated by artificial intelligence.
A Gemini poems. It is certainly an unexpected inclusion for a woodcarving newsletter.
I couldn't believe it. The editor used Gemini, this advanced generative AI model, to write cute little recap limericks about the members.
Yeah, there are poems about Dan's carved owl, Bill's pup, cowboys being styled up, and Rod making faces.
You have this ancient, hands-on, deeply physical discipline using digital algorithms to write newsletter copy.
It highlights a fascinating intersection, I think. AI isn't just a gimmick here, it's functioning as a tool for shared community lore.
That's a good point.
They're using this hyper-modern technology to synthesize their physical activities into charming little inside jokes that bind the community together.
It proves that preserving an old-school craft doesn't require rejecting modern tools.
Exactly.
They use AI for their newsletter, they use modern logistics for their woodlocker, but they never stay in the digital realm for long.
No, the calendar for their upcoming events grounds us immediately back in the physical world.
Yeah, they have a summer social on July 19th in the Fellowship Hall.
And they list very specific upcoming classes. Neil Zip is teaching a class called The Mournful Dog.
Don Rierson is teaching the Comfort Bird.
Rod Gatlin is teaching Face on a Corner.
And they're already planning for their 44th Showcase of Woodcarvings, scheduled for April 2027.
The theme for that showcase is Caught in the Act, which is just a phenomenal prompt for carvers.
It sounds incredibly difficult. You are challenging an artist to capture a moment of dynamic, kinetic energy in a completely static piece of wood.
It requires them to utilize all those foundational rules Carver Bob K taught them about anatomy and proportion, but push them to the absolute limit to convey motion.
It's just a thriving ecosystem, from the president's logistical planning down to the kids carving soap. It all feeds back into this singular passion.
It really does, and I think this raises an important concluding thought for you, the listener.
Let's hear it.
Well, we live in an era where most of our daily work and communication disappears into the digital ether. We send emails, we write code, we generate text with AI, and it all exists on servers we can't touch or hold.
But the Charlotte Woodcarvers are quietly, persistently preserving the deeply human need to leave a physical, tactile mark on the world.
To take raw material and shape it with intention. So what is your wood carving? Even if you never pick up a knife, what physical proof of your time, your focus, and your attention are you leaving behind in the real world?
Go to charlottewoodcarvers.com/newsletters for the PDF version of this newsletter and all the past newsletters dating back to 1983.